There is a gland that literally affects each and every cell in the body, and this is none other than our thyroid gland. Every cell in the body depends on the hormones of this gland to manage its metabolism. So this is how our thyroid gland looks like. It's a butterfly shaped structure with two lobes, namely left lobe and right lobe, connected by a narrow passage or bridge called isthmus. Thyroid gland is located in the neck region. It sits on trachea and it lies just beneath the larynx. Larynx is the voice box and trachea is the windpipe. So let's see this here. Thyroid gland, it is located just beneath the larynx and it sits on the trachea, windpipe. It has two lobes, left lobe and right lobe. It looks like a butterfly and it looks like alphabet H. This is the largest endocrine gland in the body. And this is the only gland that stores hormones. In our previous sessions, we have discussed about hormones and their storage by various endocrine glands. This is the only gland which stores its hormones, and it can store these hormones for about 3 months. Okay. It can store its hormones for about 3 months. None of the other endocrine glands or hormones are stored. They are produced when they are required and they are eliminated from the body. And what is the role of this thyroid gland in your body? Thyroid gland makes hormones and predominantly produces hormones called T4 and T3. T4 and T3, as you look at these structures, you need not panic about these structures. You need not remember these structures. This is to just tell you that this hormone is an amine hormone. It is derived from amino acid tyrosine. This is T3 and this is T4. Thyroid gland produces T3, T4. It also produces one more hormone which is called calcitonin. But we'll talk about this later, because this is not involved in regulation of metabolism as these two. So we'll take this separately. Calcitonin we'll take up separately. Thyroid gland produces two hormones, and these hormones are otherwise called thyroid hormones, and these are T3 and T4. And iodine, if you look at the structure of the T4, T4 is called tetraiodothyronine. Tetraiodothyronine. Tetra refers to 4. T3 is triiodothyronine. Tetraiodothyronine has 4 iodine atoms. This hormone has a component, that is iodine, which is incorporated into the structure. So this has 4 iodine atoms. Can you see these purple color structures? The sticks 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 iodine atoms are incorporated into the tyrosine molecule, and this is your tetraiodothyronine. T3 is triiodothyronine, and triiodothyronine has 3 iodine atoms, 1, 2 and 3. Okay. of these two, tetra and triiodine, the T3 form is biologically active. And T4 is inactive. 90% of the hormone that your thyroid gland makes is T4 and only 10% is T3. T4 is less potent, whereas T3 is more potent. And these two forms are interconvertible. This form can be converted into this and this form can be converted into this. Okay. So, thyroid gland makes hormones, 3 hormones, namely T3, T4 and calcitonin. T4 is otherwise called thyroxine. T4 is otherwise referred to as thyroxine. So, there are 3 hormones produced by thyroid gland and they are T3, T4 and calcitonin. The role of calcitonin will take up later. Okay, when you peep into the structure of the thyroid gland, okay, this is how your thyroid gland is. See, thyroid gland is a butterfly shaped structure. If you just take a section of the thyroid gland and peep into the structure, if you look at the anatomy of the thyroid gland, you will observe cells called follicles. Let's have a look at this animation, then we'll go back and we'll see how the hormones are produced. Let's have a look at this animation. This is the thyroid gland. You are peeping into the thyroid gland and you can see structures like this. We'll take up this anatomy. Just have a look at this structure. So, when you look at the structure of the thyroid gland at anatomical level, you do see structures called follicles. Follicles are secretory cavities or sacs. They are bag-like structures. You can see here the cuboidal cells in the follicle. This is a follicle. This part is a follicle. And this follicle has cuboidal cells and here in the center there is a cavity. And this cavity is called colloid, wherein they store the hormones produced by the gland. This is the blood, and in the blood iodine is present. These cells, they extract iodine from the blood and make thyroid hormones, and these thyroid hormones are stored in this colloid. Okay. So, the follicles, the cuboidal cells of the follicles, to be precise, make up hormones which are stored in the colloid, and the hormones, to make these hormones, iodine is required and iodine is extracted from the blood, flowing blood in the blood vessels. And you can see these structures. These are called C cells or parafollicular cells. These cells make another hormone called calcitonin. Here the follicle cells, this is a follicle. These cells are follicular cells. And these follicular cells are made up of cuboidal epithelium. These cells make T3, T4 thyroid hormones, and parafollicular cells or C cells make calcitonin. And these hormones are released into the blood. What do they do? When these hormones are released into the blood, what do they do? What is the function of these hormones? They regulate, as I said earlier, they regulate metabolism. Their major function is regulation of metabolism. What is metabolism? What exactly is metabolism? Metabolism is the reactions. Metabolism means all the reactions that are happening inside your body. For instance, digestion is a chemical reaction wherein you break complex organic food substances into simpler substances. Then respiration is a biochemical process wherein you break down glucose with the help of oxygen, which is called oxidation, into substances and energy. You get energy, you produce ATP. So respiration is biological oxidation of glucose to produce energy. So basically metabolism is how you make energy and with what pace you are utilizing that energy. This energy production and utilization varies from individual to individual. So the major role which thyroid gland plays in your body is regulation of metabolism. Every cell is carrying out different functions. Every cell is going through a series of chemical reactions, and all these chemical reactions are influenced by the thyroid hormone or T3. And this hormone is also important in bone and brain development. See, the hormone is responsible for physical growth, mental growth and sexual growth. All the three types of growths are possible because of this hormone. It controls physical growth, mental growth and sexual growth. Okay. And this is very important to maintain and repair your tissues. Thyroid hormone also maintains your body temperature. See, in our previous sessions, we learnt that body temperature maintenance is a function of hypothalamus. Then, how this role is performed by thyroid gland? Because when you are producing energy, when you are oxidizing glucose, you are producing energy. When you produce energy in the form of ATP, you are also releasing heat energy. And this heat energy maintains temperature. Okay. So, apart from production of energy in the form of ATP, this hormone also produces heat energy. That is why this effect is called thermogenic effect. Okay. ATP calorigenic effect, heat thermogenic effect. Okay. Here ATP is produced, calories are burnt, ATP is produced, so calorigenic effect. Heat is produced, thermogenic effect. There is an optimum level of hormones that has to be maintained in the blood for optimal functioning of the body cells. And you must have heard of thyroid diseases. The incidence or prevalence of thyroid diseases in India is very common. 1 in 20 individuals are down with thyroid related disorders. Hypothyroidism is more common. Is more prevalent, and this is more prevalent in women compared to men. Anybody can get hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism at any age, even kids. Even there are kids who are born with cretinism. We'll talk about these diseases in a while. So, but the incidence of thyroid disorders are more in women. See, overactivity and underactivity of the gland can cause diseases. The ideal level, the optimal range should be maintained, otherwise it can cause diseases. Undersecretion also causes diseases, oversecretion also causes diseases. So, the optimal range should be maintained, and this is regulated, the optimal range is regulated by hypothalamus, pituitary and the gland itself, about which we have discussed in our previous class, via negative feedback mechanism. So, in case of hypothyroidism, hypo means less. So, what is less here? The thyroid hormones T3 and T4, if you measure the level of T3 and T4 in blood, then in case of hypothyroidism, the levels are low. T3 and T4 is low. If you look at the reports, blood reports of people who are down with thyroid problems, hypothyroidism, then if you look at the T3 and T4 levels, then these two levels are low, but TSH is high. This is high because your thyroid is trying to produce more T3 and T4, because if there is more TSH, then only there can be more T3 and T4. But even though TSH is working hard, because of some issues about which we are not going to discuss here, we will be discussing this in our higher classes, T3 and T4 levels are low. So, when T3 and T4 levels are low and TSH level is high, this condition is called hypothyroidism. Your thyroid is not producing enough hormones. This is hypothyroidism. In contrast, in case of hyperthyroidism, where the gland is overactive, here in case of hypothyroidism, the gland is underactive. In case of hyperthyroidism, the gland is making more and more of T3 and T4, but TSH is less. See, when there is more T3 and T4 via negative feedback loop, these two hormones, they signal pituitary and hypothalamus to release less of TSH and less of thyrotropin releasing hormones. We have learned this in our previous sessions, but because of some issues, this is not happening. Even though there is low TSH, the secretion of T3 and T4 is very high. This condition is called hyperthyroidism, and this is because of overactive thyroid gland. Okay, now let us see the symptoms of hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism, the clinical, the manifestations of hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism. In case of hyperthyroidism, you can see bulging of eyes, bulging of neck. The gland is actively secreting more hormone. So, the gland bulges here, and there is accumulation of fluid in behind the eyeball. So, the eyes are protruding. Protruding eyes is a hyperthyroidism, and this condition is called exothalamic goiter. Exothalamic goiter or Graves' disease. We'll replay this animation and take a look again. This is the normal individual, normal female, eyes are normal, thyroid gland is normal. Here if you look at the thyroid gland, this is normal, and in case of a female who is having exophthalmic goiter, the scenario is entirely different. Can you see the bulging of the eyes, the protrusion of the eyeball, and here in the neck there is goiter, the neck is bulging. This is because of excess secretion of hormones, and the gland is bulging, that's why you can see this protrusion here also. Let's see this once more. Now, what are these symptoms of hypothyroidism? This is about hyperthyroidism. See, in case of hypothyroidism, simple goiter can result. This is because of the deficiency of the iodine, which is not very common now. It used to be there a long time back. The people who used to stay in hilly regions, they had iodine deficiency in their diet. So because of this iodine deficiency, the hormone cannot be prepared, because to make hormone T3 and T4, iodine should be incorporated. When there is absence of iodine, अगर iodine नहीं है बॉडी में, ब्लड में आयोडीन नहीं है, ब्लड में आयोडीन आता है थ्रू योर डाइट. इफ योर डाइट इज नॉट rich in iodine, then you don't have iodine in the blood. If you don't have sufficient iodine in the blood, then this hormone cannot be synthesized, and if you don't have this hormone, then it leads to hypothyroidism, and this is simple goiter. And this can be overcome through incorporation of iodine in your diet, and now iodized salt is available, so this is not an issue. This can be easily overcome. Then, if you look at this child, this disease is cretinism. Cretinism is hypothyroidism in the fetal stage. Cretinism, children are affected. At what age? This is in the fetal stage. If the mother during pregnancy, if she is suffering from hypothyroidism, then she cannot give hormone, thyroid hormone to the developing baby. So in the fetal stage, if the mother, if the pregnant female is hypothyroid, then the kids born will have a disease called cretinism. If you look at this child, the child looks mentally retarded. The child is having low IQ. There is mental retardation, because thyroid hormone is required for mental growth, physical growth, and sexual growth. The body is also stunted. Short stature. If you see, the belly is protruding. So belly protrusion. You need to keep in your mind that this stage is only restricted to fetal stage, but the kids born will have this problem in future also, but this is mainly acquired during fetal stage of development. In adults, the hypothyroidism in adults is called myxedema. So this is very common in females. I have seen girls who are as young as 18, 19 missing their menstrual cycle, and they have hair loss, they have skin problems, they have mood swings, and these are all the symptoms of hypothyroidism in adults, which is called myxedema. So severe hypothyroidism results in lethargy, they feel weak. And in case of females who have hypothyroidism, in general, you must have seen increased weight or obesity. Why is it so? See, this hormone, the thyroid hormone, is very important to bring about metabolism. It maintains metabolism. Metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins and fats is very vital. So, when carbohydrates are not metabolized, when they are not broken, when lipids are not metabolized, when they are not hydrolyzed, then what happens? They get accumulated, the metabolism is low, the basal metabolic rate goes down. So, when the basal metabolic rate goes down, then people tend to gain weight. So, weight gain is a major issue with hypothyroidism. So, most of the people who have hypothyroidism, they tend to gain weight, because the body's metabolism, the metabolism of all the major macromolecules goes down. So, they gain weight. Then they have thinning of hair. The moment you go to doctor with a complaint of thin hair, the doctor would suggest you to go for thyroid test, because thinning of hair or hair loss is a major symptom of hypothyroidism. And the face looks very puffy. You have seen this in the animation also. And cardia. See, this hormone is very important in maintaining your BMR. BMR is basal metabolic rate, the rate at which your body is utilizing energy. This is possible when you are oxidizing your glucose molecules, you are producing energy. So, when you are not having enough hormone, your heart is not functioning properly, your other organs are not functioning properly, increased. Then loss of eyebrow hair, eyebrow hair loss, and the enlarged thyroid, and the appetite is very poor, because you are not digesting. See, when the metabolism is low, you are not breaking the macromolecules that you have ingested. So, this will obviously result in very poor appetite. How to keep your thyroid gland healthy? So, consume lean protein. So, consumption of lean protein, you should avoid red meat. Red meat is beef, mutton. Try to take chicken and fish. Increase the consumption of antioxidants. Your greens, vegetables, they are good source of antioxidants. So, consume more of greens and vegetables in your diet. Then omega-3 fatty acids, the nuts, the fishes, especially salmon, is a very good source of omega-3 fatty acids. So, consume omega-3 fatty acids. Thyroid gland is very important because it is responsible for physical growth, mental growth and sexual growth. It plays a key role in metabolism. Let's take up a question. So, T3 and T4 contains which of the dietary components? Is it iron, calcium, iodine or magnesium? Iron is a component of your hemoglobin. So, this is not the right answer. Calcium, I said thyroid gland produces a hormone which is important in maintaining calcium metabolism. So, calcium is not a component of T3 and T4, neither magnesium. So, the option is iodine. Submit. Thyroxine has iodine. So, it is an inevitable component of thyroxine, thyroid hormone. So, iodine is the correct answer. The main hormones secreted by thyroid gland, T4, T3, both A and B, and TSH. This question we can discuss in the next class. This is an assignment for you. There is a gland which acts antagonistically to the thyroid hormones. Antagonistic, opposite. So, there is a hormone. There is a hormone secreted by thyroid gland, and that is calcitonin. About that we will discuss that separately, and this hormone acts antagonistically. Calcitonin acts antagonistically with another hormone, and we'll discuss about this hormone in the next class. Metabolism, thyroid gland is very important to maintain your metabolism. Metabolism is the amount of energy that your body uses and at what pace it uses this energy. Metabolism is the amount of energy that your body uses and at what pace or speed. See, I eat a lot. I am fond of food. I eat a lot, but I don't put on weight. I have seen people, they eat very less, but they put on weight. And you must have heard of a term called BMR. People say, oh, probably her BMR is very high, that's why she is not gaining weight. And you would have said people saying, or doctors saying, probably their BMR is very low, that's why they are gaining weight. So what is this BMR? BMR is basal metabolic rate. What is it exactly? How many calories of energy or how much of energy you are utilizing, how much of energy we are using when we are idle, physically and mentally. What does it mean? I am not doing any work, I am idle, I am not even thinking, I am not doing anything, I am sleeping. See, even though I am at sleep, my heart is pumping blood, my kidneys are filtering blood, my brain is working. So, idle doesn't mean that your body is not doing any chores. Your body is doing its normal functioning, but you are not doing any physical work. I am talking, so this is work. I am walking, this is physical work. I am thinking, mental work. So, I am using energy for all these activities. When you count BMR, you say when you are physically and mentally idle, how many calories of energy you are consuming, and this is your BMR. And how it tells, how is it impacting your weight or how is it impacting your metabolism? This is because when your BMR is high, you are using all the energy that you have converted during the process of digestion and respiration. See, through digestion you acquire nutrients, you get food, and ultimately this food is oxidized during respiration to give you ATP. So, if you are using all the ATP that your body has generated, then your BMR is high. If you are not using all the energy that your body has utilized and if you are storing it, then your BMR is low. Okay, and how do you get energy from this and how the molecules are stored in the body? See, whatever you eat, it is converted into simplest form of molecules like glucose, amino acids, fatty acids and glycerols. Okay, I'll take up one example of glucose and we'll see how this is happening. Glucose, extra glucose which you are not oxidizing will be converted into a polymer of glucose called glycogen, and this glycogen is stored in the liver, and whenever there is need for this glucose, the glycogen is converted, and this glycogen is converted back to glucose and released into the blood. So, the pace at which we do this differs from individual to individual. In case of people who are hypothyroid, where they don't have enough thyroid hormones, the BMR comes down. So the molecules are not hydrolyzed. So the fat accumulation increases. The degradation of biomolecules, which is very normal in case of normal individuals, is not happening. So they gain weight. This is vice versa in case of people with hyperthyroidism. Because their metabolism is very high, they tend to break down whatever they eat. So they lose weight, they look thin. There is a hormone that works antagonistically to the calcitonin produced by thyroid gland. Let's see which hormone acts antagonistically to the calcitonin in our next class and understand more about that hormone in our upcoming sessions. Thank you.
Keep imbibing. We believe in you.